you know, with
That's
14
good.
candidates.
Yeah, that's going to really split things up a little
You
bit.
could take a,
We're
you
trying
could
to
take
get
a,
ready for this cool weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the time of the year.
no one gets
I
the,
think that top urban is probably greenhouse causing the thing.
yeah.
But once I get the fourth one in there, now, you know.
Yeah. An error occurred while processing your request.
It'll be okay. We lost a roof.
Try again here.
That's an increase, but there's nothing yet that needs. So when you talk to anybody about this,
So this was.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Till we get more information. I looked at three alternatives to make my decision. Marcus Street.
Do you?
Thank you. Yes.
That's what, I don't know.
Yeah, it just keeps coming up though as,
Well, it's your work 7 o'clock.
If you're fine.
oh, there it came up this time for me. Yeah, it was coming up as an error before.
They went down to have a new.
I can't hear it. Here we go.
Yeah.
I'll call this meeting to order. Thank you for all standing. Diane, I think invocation, or Jack tonight, thank you.
I got the second.
Thanks, Jack.
We can't keep it
Thank
straight.
you.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening to tend to the needs of our city. We thank you for the safe return of our astronauts. We are deeply thankful, Lord, for the countless blessings you have poured upon our citizens. Good jobs, safe neighborhoods, abundant resources. We express gratitude for committed employees and department heads whose dedication make Warsaw a cherished place to live, work, and play. As we shift our attention to the matters before us, I humbly ask that you bless us with the capacity to show respect, understanding, and compassion toward one another throughout our discussions. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Jack. Now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Again, welcome, everybody. And let the record show that everybody is present except for Jerry. Jerry is absent.
Got it. Thank you.
First item is the minutes from March 3rd.
Mr. Mayor, I've read the minutes, I approve, and I make a motion that we approve.
Motion to approve by Mike. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Cindy. Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody that is here tonight. The first item is a presentation from our Ride Walk group. Fred and Nate, who would like to speak first? Okay, thank you, Fred.
Thank you. Didn't realize we were first on the agenda.
Yeah,
Things are going well on Monday evening, right?
yeah. Thanks, Fred.
Thank you. My name is Fred Helfrich. I'm here representing the Ride Walk Committee. I also serve as the Board of Directors of the KCB Cycling Organization. and sit on the board of directors for Bicycle Indiana. We're here tonight basically to appeal to the council to approve the application, the process of
Fred,
applying.
can I ask you to speak up just a little
Sure.
bit?
Yes,
Appreciate it.
it's a function of hearing aids.
No, I understand.
So I'm here tonight basically to appeal to the council to approve the application process for a Safe Streets for All grant for a cycle track of some description through downtown Warsaw. Yet to be determined where, when, how, but at least to apply for the grant. The grant is essentially money that's on the table on the federal level and there to be applied for. It is a matching grant, requires a 20% local match, and we have a commitment from a local foundation to cover that part of the application process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nate and let him talk a little bit about the grant itself.
So thank you, Fred. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nate Callithan, and I'm here on behalf of Ride Walk and Kosciuszko County Velo. So I know that we've individually gone through with the council members to look over this proposal, and it has changed a little bit since some of you saw it in the first go-around. We took out all of the design and engineering work that we had done of it going down Market Street, and so you might see that it's a little bit shortened now. What we're asking from the council is permission to seek this grant, and through that grant, we would then do more design, engineering, and discussions on the route, what this would look like. So all of the details are still to be figured out, but we just want the approval of council to even entertain pursuing this grant. With that, are there any questions?
Nate, I think just so the public would understand, and again, the council representing them, in your presentation, starting on page 3, you mentioned that there are 2 types of grants. You are recommending to the city to seek one over the other. Might be a good idea that you explain the differences between the 2 and which one that you're asking the council to consider, what that will entail. And then take us briefly through pages 4 and 5 that highlight the parameters that, again, will lead you to your recommendation. Thanks.
Yeah, sure thing. So there are, like you said, there are 2 types of grants under the Safe Streets for All program. The first is called Planning and Demonstration, which is what we are requesting approval for seeking. These are activities that will be funded to do engineering, design work, planning, temporary demonstration projects that use inexpensive materials. And the idea behind these grants are to inform a municipality applying for them what long-term solution they should be seeking when they go out and fund that long-term solution. So most of these projects are in the ballpark of $100,000 to $500,000 or less. These are using cones, bollards, paint, materials like that. The second kind of grant, which is what we are not requesting, is called an implementation grant. And that would be funding to completely reconstruct a streetscape or a sidewalk or a side path. So those are multi-million-dollar projects, and we're not asking for money for that. We are instead just asking for money to do the design work and do potentially a feasibility study to see what this would look like to better inform the city as it looks into a multimodal trail downtown, to help them answer questions that they currently have as far as the route it might go on or what the specific details might be. Through this grant, the city will have full control over what the actual implementation would look like for this feasibility study. So if anything needs to be adjusted, it can be adjusted. If it wants to be canceled at any time, we can cancel it at any time. There are really no strings attached when it comes to how long this has to be in place. or any stipulations. The only stipulations that, and this goes in the pages 4 and 5, that are required by the federal government is that we use American-made products when we purchase paint and bollards and signage, and that we inform the federal government what changes we want to pursue going forward. So the easiest thing for us to do would be to update the Ride Walk Master Plan that currently exists with the results of this demonstration activity. Are there any questions?
Okay, so if you get the grant and you go ahead and you do kind of a feasibility study, if after doing that study, you decide what you come up with is not going to work, how does that work with a grant then?
So our intention would be, we're just seeking for permission to apply today. Before we put paint to ground or do anything, we would work with the council members, we would work with stakeholders in the public, whether it be business owners, we work with the city planning and engineering departments to make sure that whatever we might want to implement, we have all the details nailed down. We would then come back before the Traffic Safety Commission, back before this council, and once again back before the Public Works, just to see, get approval from everyone then and there. And if we get approval there, we would go through and actually implement this feasibility study. If after implementing this, we need to change something or something needs to be amended or we want to get rid of it, that's something that we would work very diligently with all 3 of those commissions to make sure that it would be done as soon as possible.
You're asking for a $500,000 grant, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you have any kind of a breakdown as to what the budget would be and what the study would cost? Because I don't think we've received any of that information.
So I did do a breakdown of the estimated costs in the first memorandum that was sent out a couple weeks ago. That was about 30 pages long. Because we weren't doing any of the design work as part of this, I didn't include it in this memo. But engineering is estimated to cost between $60,000 and $100,000. Estimates for paint, bollards, signage, all comes out to an additional $100,000. And then we doubled that amount just to account for any price increase or any unforeseen costs that we were unaware of.
Can you give us an idea of the scope, just for the public, where it would start and where it would end? Like, I'm assuming Little Crow or somewhere in that area, is that correct, for the east side?
So that would be to be determined. If we got approval today, we would sit down with council members to determine the best route for the path to go on. Currently, right now, there is a greenway on Market Street that runs all the way from where Stonehenge Golf Course is, through Winona Lake, up through the greenway. It goes up McKinley Street and hits Market Street, and it goes east or goes westward all the way until you get to Little Crow. And then there's a break of about 1/3 of a mile through downtown. It picks up again at the post office at Columbia Street, and then goes out to the Chinworth Bridge for an additional 2 to 3 miles. And that's being extended, starting construction on Thursday, out to Creighton Brothers.
So the west end is Columbia Street, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that's about 7 blocks, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Are you suggesting that you would sit down with us before the engineering study is done?
As part of that, yes.
Because I think we would want to see like a traffic engineering study.
Okay, because there was one that was conducted a few years ago.
Right, but we think it's obsolete.
And why is that?
We need, because it was done too long ago, and we've experienced growth in the downtown area and the downtown businesses. So we'd like to see something.
So just so I get really dive into what the concern is.
Right.
What is the concern about why it's obsolete, though? I understand there's growth with business, but how does that pertain to the traffic study? Specifically, what's your concern?
Okay, because there at least visibly appears to be increased traffic through downtown than there was 8 years ago.
So I studied all of the NDOT traffic studies, data, traffic counts over the past 4 to 5 years since that study was done. And across the board, traffic on every street downtown is down by about 12 to 20%. On Market Street specifically, it's down 25% since that study was first done.
Right, but
That's your perception.
No, that's facts, that's data.
Where,
That's,
where do you get that?
it's publicly available data that NDOT provides. If you want to see it, I'm more than happy to send it to you.
I think, I think the concern is that looking at what you initially proposed to us, and I understand that that's not necessarily on the table tonight, that there are a lot of things that that study maybe didn't necessarily take into account. For instance, traffic trying to leave Presby Preschool, traffic trying to leave, come and go from the gathering place, traffic trying to come to all the, and I'm talking about pedestrian traffic. I'm not so much talking about car traffic, the kinds and types of people that are starting to use our downtown now that I've heard from are parents trying to pull out safely onto Market that count on the traffic light in order to get in and out. People utilizing all of the different support groups for people with addictions that are located within a 1-block radius here, trying to get in and out. Young mothers with kids with strollers trying to get across the street now to get to coffee shops because there's a place now downtown where they want to go and gather. That none of this was there 8 years ago. So I'm thinking those are the kind of people that I have heard from, in addition to members of your community. And then I'd express to you just a safety concern in terms of someone like me hearing impaired and then trying to get across the street and utilizing the traffic signals which we put in that actually have a signal that my dog is trained to hear that tells me when it's safe to go across the street. So things like that we think perhaps need to be updated and looked at more. So I personally don't think I'm a traffic engineer that I would feel comfortable deciding on a route without some input that includes not only vehicular traffic, but the pedestrian type of traffic. So are you saying that you have to have a route picked before you apply for the grant?
No. No, as part of this grant application process, we've budgeted for engineering design. And as part of that, we would sit down through the study with council members and with stakeholders and help the engineering firm determine what the best route is. We're open to all routes. And I just want to reiterate too, as a part of this, our number one concern is safety.
Right, and ours too, I think. And we don't want to, I absolutely agree. It is not safe to ride your bicycle through downtown Warsaw. So, I mean, there's no question about that. But we also don't want to take away from the safety of other people in order to make it safer for the bicyclists.
Right. We don't
want
either.
to do both.
Yeah.
And I think you do too. But what I heard you saying initially to us was, if we approve this tonight, you want to sit down with us right away. And I'm saying I don't think that we have enough information to do that at this point until the study is started and we see the information coming out of that.
All right, and that's very fair. My intention was to sit down at the beginning to really understand what the user needs and concerns are to help inform the engineering firm as far as what they need to be implementing, what they need to be concerned with. It's not to have the council make a decision on a route prior to the study. It's just to help better inform.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, and and I can provide information and data on this as well, but generally speaking, the safer you make a street for bikes, the safer it is for pedestrians as well. Just with traffic calming measures and slowing traffic down a little bit, making people more aware in vehicles And as a part of this, I really do want to sit down with you and understand how you get across the street, especially with your service dog, because I think people with disabilities have been really left out with a lot of the infrastructure in this town.
Well, yeah, and the other people that have contacted me were people using mobility devices, that it takes them longer to get across the street.
Right, exactly. And I think our intention with this too is that the crosswalk would be a shorter distance to cross the street than it is right now too. So just trying to help everyone that we can with this project.
Kind of piggybacking off of what Diane was saying, and again, I'm not against cycling. I worked with Alan Alderfer back in 2007 or 8 to bring the first downtown criterium to Warsaw. So not against cycling, but a lot of the letters and things that people have reached out to me, kind of comparing Warsaw and Winona Lake. And I just want to point out, when you are selecting a route, that we're never going to be Winona Lake, because this is kind of the hub of government activity, city, county, financial institutions, real estate agencies, attorneys, and so forth. So we have quite a mix of those types of businesses versus the retail. We're working hard to try to bring some more cultural events to downtown, but just please keep in mind that we also have to consider those folks that are probably going to be coming via car. Maybe not all, but a lot of them.
Yeah, and we understand and recognize that. A lot of those folks are here tonight, and I don't want to speak on behalf of them. I think the general idea of a lot of people bringing up Winona Lake wasn't that, there's something lacking in downtown as far as an amenity or a reason they wouldn't want to come downtown, but more that they just don't feel safe to do so was more of the concern. And, I appreciate all of the work that you're doing to bring those events and to focus on those people. We're also hoping that by giving someone an option to cycle downtown instead of driving makes driving better for people driving downtown.
So Nate, I have a question. There's obviously a lot of interest in cycling in our community, and there's quite a few people here obviously supportive of this. Ride Walk Warsaw Winona Lake, is that the stakeholder that's going to speak for the cycling community? Or is there other cycling clubs or other cycling groups that are going to weigh in on the potential bike trails? Or is Ride Walk Warsaw Winona Lake the stakeholder from the cycling group in the community?
So there are a couple of them. So Ride Walk, it's branded right now on the form as Warsaw Winona Lake in the logo, but we've expanded to the whole of the county, so we encompass the whole county. There's also the County Parks Board that might weigh in, and then there's Kosciuszko County Velo, which is the umbrella group for a lot of these organizations we do bicycle advocacy for the county and put on events like Fat and Skinny Tire Fest, and we do bicycle education in the Warsaw Community Schools. But Ride Walk is an organization that runs out of the mayor's office, technically, and is the advocacy committee for the city.
So who do you anticipate? Is it KCV that's going to be the advocate for the cycling group, or is there other groups?
KCV would be the main group.
Okay.
Yes.
So then are you the grant recipient?
No, the city is.
Okay.
Nate, if you would, in the first part, I was going to ask, just for clarification. You're here in front of the council because the grant, you don't have the ability, your group, to make that request and handle those dollars. It's an 80-20. Please clarify again why you're here and how that would play out.
Yes. So the only people who can apply for grants are municipalities or state governments. So that's why we can't do it on behalf of the city. The city is going to have to do the application. Now, we will help the city write the application and draft it. MACOG is also going to help out with that as well to make sure everything's done correctly and that we're trying to be the least amount of burden on the city as possible whenever we're going through this process. But
I just want to take a second and kind of point out how Ride Walk is positioned. It is kind of under the mayor's office initially, formed that way, and it is a group of stakeholders. They have no money, they have no entity as such. It's a loose affiliation of just advisory board sort of thing. That's all it is.
$80-20 grant. You have a local foundation, you said in the notes, that is willing to pay the 20%.
Yes.
It's up to 500,000, it'd be $100,000.
Correct.
And again, we would be asked to work with your organization and potentially others on the design, the study, and that's what these dollars would be used for. Is it feasible? Is it something we want to do? And if we want to do it, this is where we should consider doing it. That's what this grant is going to allow you to do, working with the city. If the city says, yes, we'll move forward.
Correct. Yeah, we're just seeking permission to apply since we cannot apply.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, other than the fact that it's important for the Traffic Commission to look at whatever, is there a reason why this is not going through the Plan Commission?
The suggestion was, when I talked to them months ago, and again from my office, was that it would be a good idea to discuss what you're wanting to do with the council, and that's why you guys had some individual,
Right.
small group discussions. And then thinking Traffic Commission should be the first one to look at it, and that's where they've gone, but they've not gone to the Plan Commission.
Well, yeah, I don't mean like at this point, but when something's on the table, just to make sure that it is fitting in with all the strategic plan we have and all the other plans and studies that have been done, that the Plan Commission is aware of and works with regularly.
If you were to approve, seek the grant, if we were to receive up to $500,000, I certainly would hope that we would play a major role on any engineering firm that they're going to talk to, that we're going to talk to upstairs. Jeremy's here today. Our staff would be working and going through all of these complexities, the costs, the realities, to give the council that information. And that's what I thought, or I think
Yeah,
you guys are going
correct.
to do with those dollars, is to, it wouldn't be city dollars, it would be grant dollars, to where we could further study and lay out something that we could all see as a community, which you guys represent.
But a part of that, if I read the grant correctly, I went and looked at the federal grant. Part of that is, though, also an implementation, a demonstration implementation. It's not just a study, right? So we would be committed to trying something.
No, there are subsets of the planning and demonstration grant that are just engineering study.
Okay.
So we're not required. And the way the grant is set up, it's not, we've been calling it 80-20 match. It's 80-20 cost of project. So if we only use the first $100,000 for an engineering study and decide we don't want to do the rest of it, then we would just give the rest of the money back, and the local foundation would only pay the $20,000, that $100,000.
Hopefully, if I'm reading again from your notes correctly, the feasibility study, before you made your recommendation, the feasibility study, as a part of the grant, there would have to be an action plan that would have to be developed for the federal government. What did you do with the dollars? And that action plan could be, we're going to go right down Market Street, lined in gold, or the opposite would be, we're doing nothing. Am I correct?
Yeah, so we could use any of the previous studies and action plans. They define action plan very broadly. So we could do anything from use Hyatt Palma, use the Ride Walk Master Plan, use the Critical Corridors Connection Study that was done by the Brookings Institution. We could do the Downtown Warsaw 2030 action plan. We have a wide range of plans that we could use from to say where we've acknowledged that this is something you want to do, and then after this is done, state, this is what we're doing now.
Right. This is what we would attempt to do. So let me be very clear. You help me out here. The grant does not mean anything is going to happen.
Correct.
Okay, good.
if we approved the grant tonight, is there a timeline? So would we need to use the funds by X date?
5 years
Okay.
after receiving the dollars. So it's not 5 years from now or 5 years from when we apply, but if we receive dollars, that you have 5 years.
And as of Monday, it wasn't even open yet, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It opens at the end of this
It's supposed to be
March.
this month, so they got a couple weeks, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but it's
then-
not even open yet, right?
Correct. But I know the timelines were quick last year,
Right.
so we just wanted to get ahead of it, so we
Yeah,
didn't
no,
have
that's
to.
great that you're thinking ahead. Yeah, but I just wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly. So we haven't even really been able to see what it is yet.
Right,
because
and if for
it's
some
not open.
reason it's too burdensome of an application and it's not worth the hassle, that doesn't mean that we're dead set on applying for the grant if it becomes, there's too many requirements. These are the requirements they have laid out, and so we're going off of that.
Well, and I also saw that if you're not awarded it, they will take the time to go through it and make suggestions as to how you might approve it so you can apply again. So, I mean, that would be nice. That's how we eventually, we had to do that to get the Joe Mack property cleanup, go through and do it twice. So that would be nice to get that feedback too, so that we are more clear on to what they want if we don't give it to them the first time.
Yes, we view this as a strengthening of any potential future application for anything trail-related that the city might
Yeah,
want to do.
that's what I was reading too, so.
This might be a question for Lynn. If we're to get the $500,000, say, but only use 100,000, does that create problems in paying it?
I don't know, we've never had anyone not use
Yeah,
Holmgren,
okay.
so that would be one to learn.
Okay.
So just something I'd like to add. So in general, requests to apply for grants go before the Board of Works, and that's how I would see this one going as well. But this is a tiny bit unusual because most requests for permission to apply for grants come from someone within the city, a city department, or part of the city agency. I think this is a little bit different that Ridewalk Kosciuszko County came before you all tonight because they would like a recommendation from you all that the city move forward, asking what I believe would be the plan department or the city engineer to make the request to the Board of Works to apply for this grant. So I think they would like the council's recommendation to the planning department or the city engineer on what your opinion would be, whether you would like the plan department to apply for that grant or the city engineer to apply for that grant, and then bring it before the Board of Works and ask permission to apply for that grant like we do with any other grant that the city applies for. So I think this is the first step. It's asking you to make a recommendation to the planning department to move forward with asking the Board of Works to apply for the grant.
And I'll add to that, and I've talked to you individually, Fred and Nate know. With the plan department, I would be the one responsible for moving forward. Like I told these two gentlemen months ago, I am not moving forward until you are communicating, this is a policy decision, with the council. And I will not, do anything until I get the support from this council to move forward. It's changed a little bit because now they're asking for a grant to study and see where it might be. It's not just Market Street. And remember, Market Street is, just for the record, is years out. It's very complex. That's why the last leg has not been done. It's the hard work, and it is very, very expensive. And Jeremy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 6 million, 7, 8 million plus if it were to go down Market Street, early engineering and just the flyover look. And that's why I think it's so important that we have as much information as possible. And back to the $500,000, as our own engineer said, it's going to take a lot of money to really do the study correctly and make sure if we want to take action, that this is the spot we want to do it, and this is the amount of money that we want to invest in it. Is that, Nate, you good with how I'm talking?
Yeah, that's
You
totally
agree?
correct. Yes, thank
And
you.
I hope you guys, I've talked to you as well. I just am saying this so the public knows too. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Nate, Fred, or?
Yeah, I have maybe a series of questions for you. What is the window of opportunity from when you can first apply to the window closes for the application?
So they haven't, the U.S. Department of Transportation hasn't put that out yet. They said they would put it out when it opens. If it's anything like the application window last year, though, it opened at the end of March and closed at the beginning of August.
So a couple months.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any, do you know of any history of other communities that have applied for these grants?
Yes, South Bend has, and so that's why we're leveraging MACOG to help us with this application, since they helped them apply for it. MACOG themselves also applied for this grant to study a vulnerable road user study across the 4 counties of MACOG.
Are you working with MACOG?
Yes. So they sent a letter of support for this because they are helping us with this project.
So are the grants always the same amount of money? No. Yeah, are we getting, or is the maximum we can apply for 500,000 because of our community size or population?
No, $500,000 was just the number we threw out there. There is no maximum application, like dollar amount you can apply for.
Oh.
It's just that what we put out there as we did the engineering of trying to figure out what estimating how much paint, bollards, signage we might need, the engineering study. We took that dollar amount and doubled it.
Okay. Did you have something, Fred?
Two things. First of all, MACOG has a seat on the Ride Walk Committee, so they have a representative that attends those meetings.
With your group, your
Yes.
organization?
Ride
Okay.
Walk, yeah.
Is that person
Secondly-
here tonight?
No,
Okay.
he's sick. He just got back from Washington DC, so he's sick. Anyway,
Fred,
There's a good joke there.
last,
Do you not
Rumor is
quote that, David Sloan?
David.
so secondly, last year, the average grant for the implementation studies, no, I'm sorry, for the demonstration studies was about $670,000 actually.
Okay,
So we're on the low side of that.
okay. Why not go for the max?
There is no max.
There is no max.
Oh, okay.
So the dollar amount that we are requesting was, and I have the old one here to just give you an idea on the cost. We estimated the cost to be $148,000. So we doubled that to $300,000 and then added an additional $200,000 as cushion.
The unforeseen.
Yes.
So what, just if I could interrupt, there's a little bit of another side to that. They've apparently partnered with some foundation that's going to pony up the 20% match.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a limit to what that group or that donor or whomever is willing to do, but whatever number gets approved, they're telling you all that they have that 20% a commitment that will get covered. So if the number was bigger, they would have to come up with a bigger number
I see.
to cover their
Up to
20%.
20%?
It's an 80-20. And
Okay.
what they're here telling
So they're
you all
committed to
tonight,
20.
if you ask the plan department to request the Board of Works allow them to apply for the grant, they can tell the Board of Works that the matching portion of this grant, they have covered. The city of Warsaw won't have to come up with that 20% match to get the other 80% of federal funds.
And we did receive a letter from that foundation confirming that.
So the other thing is, we've had a couple people speak, but there's a large crowd of people. Is there anybody else in that group that would like to say something as well? I think Nate's done a good job and Fred's done a good job, but you're all here, so if if you want to weigh in, I think that's also, but Mike has some more questions. He might have them from Nate or whomever, but before we go, the rest of you will have a chance to talk if you would like, so I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't quite finished.
Sure.
So if we apply for the grant and you're successful, you have 5 years to use it, I assume you can reapply?
So the grant app, this is the last year to apply. So it's now or never.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
So the program has been running for 5 years.
okay.
And this is the cycle for this year, this financial year, fiscal year, and the 2026 fiscal year, which is the last year that this grant
Okay.
is open for.
And who knows what the future holds? Okay. So, question for the mayor is, they're asking for federal money. They're going to get some grant money, hopefully. The city, is that going to put an undue strain upstairs? Is that going to be a big time commitment for?
I want to be real careful there, but like the recent Helping Fellowship missions, our staff, there will be a burden there, but again, we'd like to think of it as a good thing because of the amount of dollars that we can get. But yes, the plan department, engineering, would play a role along with everybody that's sitting at this table
So
to work through it.
if I may add, we've talked about this with the planning department, the engineering department, the street department, the parks department, and everyone is on board and willing to help with this. We are going to do as much work as we can to be as little burden on the city as possible. But we will just need the planning department to submit the physical application.
Just an FYI, Mike, if there's a certain amount of threshold that if the city gets in federal grants, it would put us into a federal audit from the State Board of Accounts. So those are a little bit more involved than just the regular audits, the compliance reports we usually get.
So I feel a little bit compelled, from my view, I've had some conversations with some of the city groups, and my understanding is there's been no commitment yet. They haven't made a decision whether they are going to apply for any grant. But before they made that decision, they wanted your opinion and your recommendation as to whether or not you all thought it was a good idea before the planning department made a decision whether they were going to go forward with this application for the grant. But before they could apply for the grant, or it wasn't their own idea, I guess I would say, like some that are traditionally brought before the Board of Works. So my understanding in recent conversations is they haven't made a final commitment or determination one way or the other. They wanted to wait until you gave them your recommendation one way or the other as to what they were going to do next.
And these department heads, Jeremy, you're one of them, correct? Have individually and collectively, when Nate says help, you got to be very careful with that word. Help is trying to figure out what the grant is, what the potential request, again, back to Market Street might be, to give you as much information as possible just leading up to this grant request. I wanted to make sure that they were aware of what was happening and what the request was, and so there have been countless meetings and discussions individually with some of these department heads. You guys have done it, and then they have actually been meeting just to provide as much information as possible, not only for Fred, Nate, and this group, but also for you leading up to tonight.
I do want to make a quick comment on that, just to further that point. So we did go before the Traffic Safety Commission and got their recommendation. And on that board are both Justin and Dustin, who voted yes to approve that recommendation.
But it doesn't preclude, like, when we had to make a decision about Union Street turning onto State Road 25, we had a traffic engineer that really studied it all, came in and gave us some really good recommendations of things I never would have thought of. Within this grant, we could hire that type of person, right? We're not expecting our city engineer to have that level of expertise, are we?
You are walking and speaking in the right direction, exactly right. The 148,000, Jeremy helped me out, but something like this, it's likely going to be, I'm glad they're asking for 500,000.
Yeah, me too,
It
because I
would be a
remember
lot
how
more
much
work
that
than
cost.
And I have a feeling that the community that you represent, it's a policy decision, you're going to demand that information. It could be, again, $10 million, 6 to 8. Again, I don't know where we'll be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years from now, but I think that every member on this board and the community would demand it, that we have all this information, because once you drop it, it's there, which is good, it's a good thing, but again, there's a lot of moving parts here.
Sorry, Mike, I interrupted you again.
No, you're fine. It's all a great discussion. I've been on the receiving end of many of these requests, sitting on the Fire Territory Board and the Redevelopment Commission. This stuff comes to us all the time, and my feeling has always been, if there's money out there and we can apply for it, one thing's for sure, you're not going to get it if you don't apply. And if you do apply and you do your due diligence and you come up with, something better than a plan on a napkin, in other words, you go into it prepared, you got a pretty good shot at getting it. And I think we'd be foolish not to apply for it. So I would support the application for the grant. And then if we get it, then we go from there. That's how I feel. And I appreciate all you people coming out tonight. We haven't seen this many people in this room since before COVID. Thank you.
Any other questions from? Like Scott said, there may be some other people that would like to speak, add to what Nate has said, or just, we want to make sure if anybody comes in here, we want you to be able to speak. But do you have something that you'd like to add? Do you have questions of your own? We certainly are here to entertain you. Thank you. Yeah. You can get back up.
Thank you so much for allowing us to speak. Mike, I appreciate you.
So ma'am, could you
Sorry,
tell us?
you can't hear me?
who
I'm
you are?
Maria Demopoulos. Mike, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate this. Just a story. My husband and I, Greg, moved here 27 years ago, and because of cycling, Sunring Lay brought us to town. And through the years, we have stuck around and committed to raising our family here. This is home to us because of the cycling community and how much it's grown and how much cycling has grown in the community. For years, I rode my bike with my trailer and usually another child on a bike from Winona Lake to the library, from Winona Lake to the park, downtown to Center Lake. Years did that. And it was not safe, but I did it. Sometimes we rode on roads we shouldn't have, but we did it. So it has grown and it's getting safer, and it's going to be safer for our grandchildren. And I'm very thankful for that. There are so many activities downtown that happen with the summer concerts, the summer activities that happen downtown, and you can get there, but then when it gets to downtown, it's not safe. Many Saturday mornings, our family will gather together and we'll ride our bikes from Winona Lake where we live and try to get all the way out to Creighton Brothers to go to breakfast on a Saturday morning. And this is the stretch that's not safe for us. We have to find a path that's safe for us. So we would really appreciate if you would consider this grant. It's not going to be here in 2 years, so we would really, really hope that you would consider this grant.
I'm Nick Howe. I am also on the Ride Walk Commission, and I actually had the opportunity to reach out to the city of Carmel last week and talk to their redevelopment commission, and they wanted to give the city of Warsaw, and especially the town council, and any other government agency associated with the city of Warsaw an open invitation, whether that was in person or via a Zoom call, to meet and talk about the redevelopment that Carmel went through with their multimodal trail called the Monon that goes, the Monon's hundreds of miles long through the middle and southern part of Indiana. And they just wanted to give an open invitation to anybody on the council, anybody else that would like to see what the redevelopment has done to the city of Carmel and the economic development that a trail like this brought to their downtown area. So if you guys would like that, I can set that up with them, and we can either go down in person or we can do a Teams call. So if you guys want to take that opportunity, it was very informational for me last week to talk to them and just see. They have a lot of good presentation stuff on their website that has a lot of before and after pictures. But just hearing him talk about the development that kind of transformed their city in their eyes and what trails like this does to their community and brings economic-wise to their downtown areas. So if that's something you guys would like, please reach out to me, Nick Halk, on the Ride Walk Committee, and I can set that up for you guys.
Thanks, Nick.
I just want to take a bit of a pin to Nick's balloon there for a second. Warsaw, Indiana is not Carmel, Indiana. I'm sure everybody would agree with that. However, Warsaw, Indiana is a silver level bicycle-friendly community awarded by the Bike League in Washington, D.C. So is Carmel. So though it looks like we're worlds apart, we're not that far apart. So I just wanted to toss that out.
Travis McConnell. I'm not a biker, but I am very excited about using this to finish the 6.5 blocks. It's 6.5 blocks that we have on a half marathon route plus. If you start at any point on the trail and run to either side and back to that point, it's a half marathon, except for 6.5 blocks downtown city of Warsaw, which seems like, yes, it's the hard part to do, but usually the best things in life are the hard things that need to get done. And I think this is an obvious, easy opportunity to get money that's at the federal level and that we have a donor for to move us in the step in the right direction. It sounds like we have 5 other plans that I think were mentioned when Nate was up here. So we can add a 6th one, and hopefully at some point down the road, we can actually finish the 6.5 blocks downtown Warsaw to finish this plan. So it seems like a no-brainer to me. And it's not just for bikes. I mean, people run, walk, trails. I mean, the Carmel study, I'm sure if you reach out to them, nationwide averages are 3 to 5% property values go up around any sort of trail. And it can be as high as 15%. So I mean, this boosts tax revenues. It boosts development. It boosts community engagement. It boosts all sorts of things. Physical health and well-being. Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Thanks, Travis.
Hi, my name is Tirna Chandra. I'm Nate Gallison's wife, and
Speak up, please.
Am I audible?
There you go.
Is that loud enough?
That's better.
Perfect.
There you go.
Okay, my name is Tirna Chandra. I'm Nate Gallison's wife, and firstly, I just want to say that I'm so very proud of this man, and I have firsthand seen how much he cares about this community. And I'm not a public speaker, and this makes me nervous, but I was very moved by something Diane said. You talked about safety and accessibility, and I think it's very important for people to remember that a person on a bike is not a threat to a person in a car, but a person in a car is a threat to a person on a bike. A person driving a Ford F-150 can easily hit a person on a bike and kill them, but the other way around is not true. So any and everything that a city can do to make a person on a bike safe is a win for that city. And I feel like that should be the driving ethics behind the way this town is being developed. And it's so important to make sure that people who are either they don't want to drive, or they are not able to drive, or they are not able to afford to drive, are able to feel safe in this town, because a town is only as strong as its weakest link. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say you're a very good public speaker.
I'd just like to make a quick comment. I agree with Mike. If we have federal money available, I'm all in favor of getting it. The whole idea of getting that segment finished, I think, is a great opportunity for the city of Warsaw. When this first came to light, I drove that segment many times. In fact, I did it right before I came here. I just have to put it on record, I would not be in favor of anything on Market or Center Street, simply because when you put a bike path in, you either have to sacrifice parking spaces or sidewalk space. Those are the two vital thoroughfares of Warsaw, for the downtown people, for traffic, and for everything else. So I guess my opinion, and I'll just throw it out there, I'm very concerned that we would even consider any part of that segment on Market Street or Center Street. I've looked at it, something that makes sense, and I know this is way early, we're not anywhere near that yet. Little Crow south to the railroad tracks, we have 2 alleys that are not used at all the way over to Lake Street, it's a done deal. Other option northbound would be Bronson Street north to Fort Wayne all the way across. That would be easy. But I just can't support any use of Market Street or Center Street because they're just too busy. You cannot mix bikes with cars on those 2 streets. It's dangerous to drive your car or your truck on those 2 streets, and I can't imagine a bike. Someone would get killed, and that's my big concern. So hopefully we could look at the alternatives and get Market Street out of the mix.
So as a part of this, we are looking at all our alternatives. I just want to make a recommendation on, or not a recommendation, but just to clarify a comment that you made about if we went down Market Street, we would have to eliminate either sidewalk space or parking space. That's not the case at all. The original recommendation that we presented was to remove the left turn lane in order to preserve all parking. We even found 8 parking spots to add in, and we weren't going to touch the sidewalk at all. So just to give you an idea of what this thing might look like, I was actually in Chicago this weekend, and on one of the busiest streets in Chicago, I'll bring this up to you so you can see it, but is an idea of what this might look like. And this preserves all street parking. Chicago legally, this was put in 2016, and since 2008, Chicago was legally not able, since then, they cannot remove any parking because they don't own any of the parking spaces. Morgan Stanley does. But just to give you an idea of what this might look like.
And while he's dropping that off, again, I think, Jurgen, you've hit the mark here. The need for this grant money to have a feasibility study so we can actually, instead of the back and forth, which is all good, but like you said, it's early, we actually have it in front of us, these studies that have been done, so we can make a good decision. You know as well as I do, sometimes you think it isn't going to work, and then somebody shows it to you and it can. So good comments, but again, I think we need to get back to the request, which is should we as a city accept the request and move forward with seeking this grant?
So Mayor, are we done with public comment?
No.
Okay.
Anybody else that wants to add to something that hasn't been said, and or you have a specific question related to the grant request? Really appreciate the comments and again, you guys coming. Thank you.
Hello, Samuel Lord. Nice to meet you all. I moved here in June from the city of Pittsburgh. I'm 23. This is my first big move outside of college. I just want to make a comment that as a younger individual that looks at downtown, I think that adding this type of opportunity for cycling, running, marathon running, it's going to introduce a lot of different economic stimulus, I think, from individuals that don't want to drive. I think you can look at almost every other city. When you have the ability to bike somewhere, it just brings a different kind of thrive to the area. People are more engaged to kind of hang out outside, enjoy the environment a little bit. So I just wanted to make that a comment that I understand this is hard, and on a bureaucratic level, none of this is easy. But I think coming in from the outside view, this would be really something beneficial, especially for the local stimulus. Thank you.
Samuel, you're not obligated to answer, but I'm curious, what brought you here?
A job.
A job.
A job. But I did visit it beforehand, and I definitely really enjoyed the area. And I think I live in Winona Lake now.
Okay.
You guys have done a great job kind of providing that avenue down there to downtown. But I think wrapping up that last section would be a really great opportunity, just kind of put a bow on everything. I grew up in a walking school district where we walked and biked everywhere. So this is all very foreign to me, where you drive like 5 miles to go to your buddy's house. That is just not a thing where I grew up. So to me, seeing this as an opportunity is just like, okay, this is awesome, because you can kind of encourage more of that. You can maybe encourage, I know you're worried about the safety. If you get that nailed down with the study, you can maybe encourage, younger individuals to come out, hang out, right? Enjoy the Center Lake area. Enjoy the shops that we have to offer. So, thank you. I hope that answers that.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing and welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Just to piggyback, excuse me, just a moment off of a comment by Nate on the left-hand turn lanes. I guess that's one thing that does concern me about having to eliminate those left-hand turn lanes on Market Street. So that's why I would encourage looking at other areas.
Yeah, I think as I started off saying, we need to do something. It's not safe. And and so I think this is a great opportunity to look at all of that. And in addition to safety, as you stated, Cindy, we're also charged with looking at the economic impact too. And so I think doing a study is an absolutely great idea to figure this out. Because if we don't do anything, we're just going to end up, the same place that we are now. So we need to do something. And I would love to have a study so I could really figure out what the best thing to do is for everybody. And there will always be some people that aren't happy, but if we can make it the best we can, I think that's our goal.
Which again, the grant dollars.
Would allow us to do.
Other than just which is great, we need to,
Right.
that they would actually be able to put it down the way it needs to be put down. Gary, thanks.
Gary Parker, I'm on the opposite. I've lived in Warsaw city limits for 47 years. I grew up in this town riding my bicycle, and I understand he says Market Street's down 25%. It probably is. When I was a kid, you used to have Donnelly's, and there used to be a lot of people out the ZB building on the west side of town. I believe it is down on Market Street. But I want to say this. The best festival we got right now is these guys hosting this bike festival. But last year I came down, I met with the mayor that night. He was down here. I was hit by a bicyclist on the sidewalks. But my thing is, bicycles don't belong on the sidewalk. And I'm going to ask you in the city that if we're going to host the festival again this year, that we enforce, Warsaw Police Department enforces, that the bicyclists don't ride on the sidewalk. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Anybody else want to share specifically about the request? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dave Kersey. So for me, I moved here about 10 years ago. I've worked for two of the larger orthopedic companies in the area. One of the biggest challenges that we have getting people to come here to work, younger folks, is that a lot of folks feel like they're not sure if it's the right place for them. Hearing from some of our younger folks in the community that these are the types of things that they want, that they're looking for, helps us from an organization standpoint to be able to attract talent as well. So from that perspective, not speaking on behalf of my company or the company I worked for before, this is one of the things that's important to me, important to some of the folks that I know. The second thing I want to talk about is, you see often for the community here, a lot of complaints about the grocery stores being removed on this side of town. This is another avenue to connect people that want to get to the grocery stores that don't have cars. So just another way to give back to the community and help people. And then I think the last thing is, from a community standpoint, we have a lot of people that do bike to work and do want to have safe ways to get there. We want to make sure we keep our employees and our citizens safe. So that's those are really the main things for me.
Thank you. Thank everybody for sharing, and again, Nate and Fred for your presentation. The Traffic Commission a few weeks ago, it was not unanimous, but they did give a favorable recommendation to seek this grant. Is there any wish to tell my office, the plan department, engineering to move forward with this?
Public comment closed?
Uh,
Are we back in
I'm
session?
just talking, yeah, it's
Oh,
always
okay.
open. Yeah. Again, appreciate the comments. Oh, okay.
My name is Alexi Demopoulos. It's my mom over there. I am a school teacher. I work at Edgewood Middle School. I actually, during the month of May, my sister and I will ride a tandem bike to school. And one of the most dangerous parts for us to get to school is through downtown. We've got lots of access. We've got lots of access coming up here, but these 6.5 blocks that we have here are probably the scariest part for us to get there. We have a growing bicycle community within the school system as well. There's recently been a mountain bike club that is established for both middle schools and the high school, and we have approximately 40 students who are interested as well as growing. I remember I grew up here. I've lived here most of my life, and I've seen a lot of development that's happened. I know there's a master plan that's been in place for 8 years, and there's a lot of people really looking forward to seeing that fulfilled and seeing that grow. And there are constantly students that I get to see riding around downtown, having access to places, and I would love to see, not just for my students, but for my future children, to be able to see this place become a safe place for individuals to get to access. And I think we've seen that and heard from many individuals that there is amazing things happening in downtown Warsaw. There's lots of growth, lots of development, and just seeing the logistics of getting people down here who would choose, hey, I'm not going to drive, I'm actually going to ride and get easier access here. I think that would be a great opportunity, and I would just encourage our board members, thank you for what you've done, thank you for your service, but I would encourage you that this is an amazing opportunity for a grant that is being supported, that doesn't come out of your pockets, and gives us an opportunity to test something and then apply what we want to do from that point on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Any direction you want to give my office?
I'd like to, first of all, I'd like to apologize to Council Member Quantz for interrupting her earlier. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
It can go
Okay,
both ways.
my apologies. Second, I would like to ask our city attorney, you're more familiar with some of these issues with grants and going before the Board of Works and that sort of thing. How do you see this playing out? Say the grant is granted. We got money in the coffers. I'm assuming our planning department spearheads it at that point, and how does it get back to council?
So here's what I anticipate. It's possible one of you council members will say, I would like to move forward with a vote that we would make a recommendation that the mayor have either the city engineer or the planning department or whomever the mayor chooses to look further into applying for the grant, but they have your approval at this point to seeking that grant. And then there will be some additional discussions with the mayor and those departments about the commitment it might be for them moving forward. But they will at least have had this public discussion, and the mayor and those departments will know that you're supportive of making a recommendation like the traffic board was of making a recommendation that this grant be pursued. And then the mayor and his department heads will discuss what the next step is and whether they will come forward to the Board of Works and have one of the department heads make a request that this grant is sought. And then I think from what I'm hearing, that department head will work with MACOG and RideWalk Kosciuszko County and maybe even some additional people to prepare this grant and ask for permission of the Board of Works to seek it. And then they'll move forward with the necessary grant application from there.
Okay, so once we say we got the money and we're ready to do something, they start the study. It's my understanding that before any paint is put down, before any lights are changed, before anything is done anywhere, it would have to come through traffic and then the council to make traffic changes.
Well, if
If that's what the plan calls for.
you all are in charge of city ordinances. And so if there was a requirement to change an ordinance, like to eliminate a left-hand turn lane and those kind of things, likely the traffic commission would make recommendations and ask you for an ordinance changing the current left-hand turn lane ordinances that we have on whatever street we may have. But long before that, I would think the city engineer and the planning department would be very heavily involved in this study and what they want the engineers to look at, which will be everything, is my understanding. It will be Center Street, it'll be Market Street, it'll be some alley somewhere, it'll be whatever. That I'm quite certain that this comprehensive study would lay out, like all these studies kind of have, the different options with the pros and cons and that. But ultimately, with the price tag associated with what it appears could be with some of these requests, that price tag would have to be approved by probably people at the redevelopment commission and probably you all to help fund the cost, because the numbers I'm hearing tonight, that's probably not budgeted funds at this point. It's probably additional funding that the city would have to seek to make that project work, probably. So I think you would have a big impact on the funding aspect of whatever project that might be proposed going forward.
Now, I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing here. We're still talking about the plan, the demonstration plan and implementation of that, not the overall years down the road.
So
We're still focused on this right now.
So the study would likely have a portion that says part of our study would be, let's have a demonstration given this proposal before exceptional amounts of money are spent. There would probably be a demonstration phase on whether the proposal that was made by the engineer was appropriate. And I'm thinking that's the demonstration aspect. But, you know,
Does that demonstration plan come before us before?
I don't think it would come before you or you as the council at all. Other than part of the demonstration would probably require, depending on what they do, again, if it's, the demonstration may require changes of ordinances, elimination of stop signs or adding stop lights or eliminating causing one-way traffic or eliminating two-way traffic or changing. Those are the kinds of things. And you all are the people that pass ordinances or amend ordinances. And so for ordinance changes, you would have to approve that if that was part of the demonstration or a long-term thing. Yes.
And that's the intent too. If the grant wasn't awarded, we all feel that it would come back to council for approval for anything that would be done after that study is done for the demonstration.
Well, it's nice that you feel that way, but
Well, we don't have the power to do that, though.
you don't have the power to do anything.
That's what I'm saying. So it would have to come back to you guys.
Well, but maybe not these guys.
The feasibility, I think we're in a gray area, we're out in front. The feasibility study is gonna guide and direct us, all right, on what should be considered. And then when we get that information, which we don't know, because there's no grant money, there's no feasibility study, all right, it's not 2-3 years from now. When we do get that, that's when we would make the decisions, are we gonna take any action and have a demonstration? And I'm just telling you, if you're gonna reroute, if you're, like you're saying, stop signs and parking spots and all that, Board of Works, and this council, my office is going to hear about it, and support it before anything is done. So, I think the big thing is do you want my office to move forward and go after this grant?
So you're asking us to make a decision here, and I've asked you 2 or 3 times, is the public portion of this meeting done? Because can we vote while the public portion of the meeting is still open?
It's an open meeting, it's not it's just an open meeting, but yeah, I can close it. I appreciate the public speaking. A great thanks
I
for that.
was just asking
So
as
let's-
a
yeah,
point of
let's-
order. I'm
so now
not
I'll
sure.
move- So point of order, I'll move it to the council.
Okay.
Appreciate the public speaking, and again, you'll be able to do that in the future, great, but now the council.
Okay. Well, in that case, I would make a motion, if that's proper language, that we do proceed to apply for the grant, knowing that down the road there may be some stipulations or issues to work out, and I would hope that, everyone would have a say, and it's going to be safe.
So point of order, listening to our attorney, the motion needs to be that we give the mayor approval to begin looking at application for the
To
grant.
pursue the Safe Streets for All grant. Do you
Good.
want me to do that?
What she said.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's a motion.
So, say that again, please,
Pursue
Diana.
the Safe Streets for All grant. The
And have
motion
the
is
mayor
to allow the mayor
direct.
to pursue the Safe Streets for All grant.
Okay.
That we would give our approval for the mayor to.
Is there a second?
Well, I'll just second and you can figure out who's doing what and then.
We're
Okay, so
tag
Mike
teaming.
made the motion and Diane has made the second. Is there any further discussion from the council?
And I just want to make sure that if the plan, the feasibility plan comes up with a demonstration that requires changes in traffic flow, signs, whatever, that it will end up coming before traffic and council.
It will have
again.
to. It will have to.
I just wanted those assurances.
Ditto to what Jack said, because I know a few years ago, we kind of got pushed into something that we thought we were going to have input in, and then we didn't. We kind of got bullied into it, so.
Yeah,
Another reason why we're here tonight. Good.
and why it's taken so long.
I'd just like to say thanks to everybody. I don't, like Mike said, I haven't seen this many people out there in a long time, a lot of passionate conversation, so that's what makes a great community great, right? So thanks, everybody.
Good point.
I would also like to say, there are a lot of strong opinions up here about desiring to have the connection between east and west. As in many things, it's just how do we get there?
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, 6-0. And thank you again for coming in. You do not have to stay. We have more business that we need to take care of, but Thank you again. Appreciate it. Good, yeah. Great evening.
If you're riding home, turn your headlights on.
We'll go to, thanks again, council. We'll go to reports, oral and written. We have a February fund report. Lynn, any comments on that?
We could spend another hour and 15 minutes discussing it.
Oh,
or I could
please,
just
no.
say there's really nothing to report on, so
Yeah.
whatever you guys want.
Wow.
It's only money.
It's only money.
So for the record, that's been presented to you. Unfinished business, we do have a second reading on ordinance 2025-0201. Brandon, if you want, just remind us what we're doing here. You can go up to the mic there and second reading, correct?
Yes, correct. And thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading for our stormwater management ordinance. It's necessary, if approved, would help make sure that we're in compliance with our MS4 permit as a city. And again, aside from keeping our waters clean and protecting our waters from pollutants.
Thanks. Was passed unanimously on first read. We'll entertain a motion to pass this ordinance.
Go ahead, Cindy.
I would move to approve ordinance number 2025-02-01.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
The second came from Josh, right? Thank you. All right, any further discussion? Call the question, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
hard work.
Appreciate it, and thank you all.
Okay. Well, Jeremy, put you to work now. Thank you. It looks like you have 3 items here. What's the first one we're looking at?
The first thing on the agenda is actually a public hearing. It's not necessarily associated with the resolution that I will be asking you to approve after the public hearing. But the public hearing has been advertised for the proposed annexation. That proposed annexation is Kraus Leasing's property off of 250 North, and should have a map in an actual fiscal plan. So you can use the fiscal plan to see the property, but it's a small, about acre property off of 250 North. And so I would ask that you open the public hearing on that annexation for anybody who would like to speak for or against it, after which you can close the public hearing and I'll discuss the resolution.
It is the map on the last page to get your bearings. And Jeremy, it's south of 250, correct? I'm looking at that. So you can get that, you can see that it's on the 13th page.
Jeremy,
And
I'm assuming this was advertised for the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Did I get that advertisement? I'll check tomorrow.
Now have a public hearing on resolution 2025-0304. Is anybody in the audience that would like to speak for or against? Would anyone like to speak for or against?
Is it the public hearing for the fiscal plan or for the resolution? Okay.
Oh, then I missed, then I didn't say it right. Jeremy, help me out.
So the public hearing is for the proposed annexation. So you have to hold a public hearing 14 days before an ordinance can be introduced for an annexation. Prior to the ordinance being introduced, you have to approve the fiscal plan for said annexation. So you have to hold the public hearing. I'll present the fiscal plan after you would close the public hearing. You have the opportunity to approve the fiscal plan, and then at the next council meeting, which will be 14 days after the public hearing, we'll present the ordinance for the first reading and then the second reading after that.
Stay there. Public hearing for the proposed annexation. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes, so about a month ago, presented a petition to you for annexation. We have X amount of days to do something with it. If we do nothing, then he can go to the court and seek annexation. I think it's 45 days or 60 days, something to that realm. So we've advertised this public hearing to initiate that annexation process. And that will include this public hearing, the fiscal plan I will present tonight, and then an ordinance on April 7th.
Public hearing on the proposed annexation. Thank you for correcting that. It's important. Anybody that would like to speak for or against this proposed annexation? Would anybody like to speak? Okay, I'll close that. Jeremy?
That's why you never want to bring a big drink to
Yeah, so you have before you Resolution 2025-0304, which approves a fiscal plan that is attached to that resolution. That fiscal plan is in representation to the said requested annexation on County Road 250 North. It's about an acre. The surrounding property that surrounds this property is already annexed into the city. This property was not annexed in 2018 when we did the airport industrial park annexation. They did not want to be annexed at that time, so we excluded them from that annexation. Kraus had owned the rest of the property around, and they did get annexed in and do have sewer. He is working on developing this property for an individual. So there'll be a new building on this property, and we'll be working with him to get sanitary sewer and water to that property. So this fiscal plan runs through all the things that are required by the state statute, including what the cost on the departments and the responsibility on those departments. I won't go into a lot of the details. You can read through it. The fiscal impact is also as shown as was required in year 1 through 4. So you can see what that fiscal impact. Now, keep in mind, this is relative to the property as it's being annexed in, which may not be relevant 2 years after they tear down the building. Well, they've already torn down the building. They'll build a new building. So it's going to change, but you can see that fiscal impact. There is no indebtedness in the Plain Township. You can see the impact on our estimated valuation. It's going to increase the city's tax base by roughly $126,000. That is the building that is on there, which has now been torn down, so that'll change as well. But it's basically a snapshot in time. You can see the material cost and supply cost for the city. I've broken that down between the street and the police department would be the two that would have some additional cost. Those costs are minimal and can be easily covered by the taxes that'll be collected off of the new development once it occurs. And then at the back, there is a picture of the property and the legal description. Is there any questions on the fiscal plan or concerns?
The action you need is on the resolution, which includes the fiscal plan.
Yes.
All right, and the policy or provisions for services if annexed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So one request from you is to consider the resolution.
Yes, you would need to approve this resolution prior to approving the ordinance.
So basically, we have an island that's not Warsaw.
Yes, and there's a few of them out there. We didn't want to proceed with a full force annexation at the time when we did the airport industrial parks. So those properties that didn't necessarily want to be in, that weren't surrounded by people that wanted to be in, were kind of left off that annexation. The bulk of that park was annexed in. There are a few on this northern side that were not annexed in, this property being one.
Are the adjoining properties in the city limits, like Kraus Body Shop, is that already in the city limits? Okay, so you're just putting it together.
Yeah, he wanted annexed and has sanitary sewer. He is also wanting water, so and there's some other property owners that I'll be working with, much like what we just did for on Husky Trail. We're extending that water line up. We'll be working with these property owners out there to do a water line project here as well.
Thanks, Jeremy. We'll entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Resolution 2025-0304, right, Mike? Okay, motion by
Yes, sir.
Mike and then a second by Jack. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. The ayes have it, thank you. Jeremy, next item?
The next item is a request to approve an ordinance issuing tax increment revenue bonds for the Bella Augusta subdivision. I sought approval from the Redevelopment Commission fall of last year to apply for the state's residential infrastructure fund loan. That loan program was open in the fall. We applied for it in January. We were notified that we were awarded $1,055,000. Our process for initiating that would be very similar to a bond. So basically, we're going to execute a bond for this loan, but the state would be purchasing said loan. So the loan amount is the $1,055,000. $1,025,000 of that dollars will go into the actual infrastructure. And then as part of their RIF program, they allowed $30,000 to be added for issuance of the bond. Thomas is here to talk about the actual ordinance, so he can go through the ordinance and answer any questions you would have, and then I can come back up and, but this will be a bond issued from the Northern Residential TIF District. It was presented to the Redevelopment Commission on Monday and was approved. It will go back before them. There's some other steps, and you can see some other boards that will need to approve this prior to it going, being approved. So it will go before the EDC, the Economic Development Commission, and back before the Redevelopment Commission before it is complete. And then there'll be a bond issuance. So I'll have Thomas come up and talk a little bit about the ordinance, and then if you have any questions for me or Tom, we can discuss that.
Thanks, Tom. You've been sitting quietly. Appreciate it, yeah. Good to see it.
Good to see you. Good evening, members of the council. Tom Everett with Barnes and Thornburg in South Bend. Jeremy really hit all the high points. Under this ordinance, the city would issue economic development tax increment revenue bonds to fund the infrastructure projects to support the additional expansion of the Bella Augusta development. As Jeremy mentioned, the city was awarded the Residential Infrastructure Fund loan by the Indiana Finance Authority, which is a low-interest loan program run by the state. The city would issue this bond to evidence the loan, and the bond itself would be purchased by the Indiana Finance Authority. Jeremy mentioned that these bonds would be payable solely from tax increment revenues from the North Residential Economic Development Area, which was established in 2019. And so the ordinance authorizes bonds not to exceed $1,055,000 for a term not exceeding 20 years and at an interest rate that will not exceed 4%. Under the ordinance, the city would issue the bonds and then provide a portion of the bond proceeds to the Biggs Group to construct the infrastructure projects for the development, pursuant to a financing and covenant agreement. This ordinance also approves the form of a trust indenture with the Bank of New York, which is the bank that the Indiana Finance Authority uses to administer these bonds under the Residential Infrastructure Fund program. The ordinance also approves a form of financial assistance agreement with the Indiana Finance Authority, which is the document that provides the terms for the Residential Infrastructure Fund loan. As Jeremy mentioned, the Redevelopment Commission at its meeting yesterday approved a pledge of the TIF revenues from the North Residential Economic Development Area to pay the debt service on these bonds. The Economic Development Commission will meet next week, since these are economic development revenue bonds. They will meet and consider a resolution to recommend to the Common Council the terms of this financing. That's a broad overview of the ordinance, but happy to answer any specific questions.
What if there's not enough income from the TIF area to pay?
Part of the IFA program is you have to show sufficient funds to do that. The bond issuance, it's not exact yet because we don't know what that rate is, and we won't know until after the 1st of April because it changes again. But it'll be around, let's say, $80,000 to $90,000 for payment. And right now, that district is bringing in about $300,000 per year.
Right, okay. I just want, I know
Jeremy?
that's in my area, so.
A couple questions. I was unable to be at the meeting on yesterday. How long will it take to put the infrastructure in there, do you think?
It'll be done this year, I believe,
This
is
year?
what
Okay.
they're.
Do we have a developer waiting in the wings?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Thank you.
So Diane, if you look on your fund report, the Northern Residential TIF fund is 4446, and there's like $871,000 in that fund.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just want to make.
They got a little reserve going on there.
And you will get my financial report probably this week. The redevelopment commission got it Friday. I will send that out, and I will probably have that for you guys on the April 7th meeting. That'll give you all of that information. Unfortunately, timing-wise, it didn't work out for this, but you'll have that going forward as we do budgets here shortly, because that will be presented at our redevelopment commission on the 16th.
Okay.
I have another question, and I don't know if Andy's not here tonight, if this is more for him or not, but right now, we do monthly transfers to the Bank of New York for all the other IFA or SRF loans we have. Would we do the same for this as well? So the bond payments are made out of that monthly transfer that we make?
I'm not entirely sure. The interest payment dates for these, for this series of bonds will be, I believe, February 1 and August 1. And so I'm not entirely sure if those line up with the existing debt payment schedules for the other bonds that are held with the SRF, but that's certainly something I can check into.
Bank of New York automatically just takes those out of our accounts then on the due dates. So I was just wondering.
Yes, I imagine it would be a very similar setup for these as well.
Yeah, if we could have Andy, or I can contact Andy tomorrow or whatever.
As stated at the redevelopment commission, this is about 1/3 of our revenue, or maybe a little less than 1/3 of our current revenue. We do have 2 other projects we're working on, so that'll leave us sufficient funds to work towards completing those other projects as well. I tried to look a little bit, and I didn't bring it up to the redevelopment commission. I talked to them after the meeting just to see what the current average valuation of that subdivision and the taxes paid. It was kind of all over the board, but it was a lot higher than I expected. So I'm guessing by the end of this, if they were to build all 41 lots out, we would probably see somewhere around 250 or north in terms of taxes generated by the project. So it's going to generate substantially more than what the bond payment even would be.
You got used to me, you knew just what I was going to ask next.
That's true. That's always the case, but.
Any other comments, Jeremy? Tom, anything? Thank you. There's an ordinance. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, it's 2025-0301.
Yes, and this is first reading.
Make a motion to approve.
On first reading.
2025-0301.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jurgen, for the second. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, 6-0 on first read. Thanks, Jeremy. Looks like you have one more.
Yes, so pretty much somewhat of a carbon copy in terms of it is an economic development bond, and I'll have Thomas talk about the bond ordinance itself. But in general, the project that we're requesting the bond issuance for is the Millwork project. A lot of talk about downtown. This is one of our major projects downtown. It'll be an 80-plus unit mixed-use apartment building that will take over the currently vacant lot at Owens. It's about a $20 to $25 million project. This bond issuance will be not to exceed $4.5 million. and it will be paid for by the revenue generated from the site, the development itself. So whatever, and the developer is buying this bond, and Thomas can go into that a little bit. But so they're going to buy the bond, and the revenue that is generated will be paid back to that developer. So it won't, whatever that revenue is that's generated will be paid back to him. So if he pays $100,000 in taxes, that's the money he will get. It will not exceed whatever he pays in terms of in taxes. So whatever it assesses at the end of the project, as it grows in assessed valuation, those funds would be returned over the life of this bond. It is an economic development bond as well, so it'll go before you, the Redevelopment Commission, and the EDC as well. And I'll have Thomas talk a little bit about the bond itself, the ordinance.
So as Jeremy mentioned, these are also economic development revenue bonds to fund a portion of the Millworks project to be constructed by AP Millworks and AP Development LLC. As Jeremy mentioned, the project would be payable solely from tax increment revenues generated from the project itself. The Redevelopment Commission will pledge those TIF revenues. Back in 2023, the Redevelopment Commission established a separate allocation area for the project site within the consolidated Northern and Central Economic Development Area. So those are the only TIF revenues that will be pledged just from the project site itself. And as Jeremy mentioned, no other funds or taxing authority of the city will be pledged to the payment of the bonds, just the project tax increment itself. The bonds will not exceed $4.5 million and will not bear interest not exceeding 8% with a term of not exceeding 25 years. As Jeremy mentioned, the bonds will be purchased by the developer, and any shortfall in TIF revenues from the project would be a risk borne by the developer. And again, no other taxing authority or funds of the city would be pledged if there was any shortfall. This ordinance also approves a form of trust indenture and financing agreement relating to the bonds. The financing agreement provides the terms under which the city will provide the funds to the developer for a portion of the project. Again, if there was a shortfall in TIF revenues, nothing from the city is pledged. It would not impact the city's credit rating or anything like that. And there's no responsibility of the city to make up the difference if there is a shortfall from any other funds. As Jeremy mentioned, the EDC will also, at the same meeting next week where the RIF loan will be considered, the EDC will consider this financing and make a recommendation to proceed. And the Redevelopment Commission will also pledge the tax increment revenues from the project site to the debt service on the bonds. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your comments. Jeremy, thank you. Any questions from the council?
Thanks for asking my question, or answering them ahead of time.
This will be a first read on this ordinance. Ordinance 2025-0302 is the ordinance that you're considering on first reading.
I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 2025-03-02.
Thank you, Cindy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead. Second by Jack. Almost Josh, thanks. And any further discussion? Thanks again, Tom. Jeremy? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thanks for everybody's patience, starting with the council, the public, everybody that was here and interested in city business. I appreciate that. Any final comments or questions from anybody from the public? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just have one quick comment.
Thanks, Diane.
In reference to Mike's invocation, it was wonderful to drive into town and see tennis being played, pickleball being played, and kids all over Kittyland. And just a reminder, there was a great article in the news media about the opportunities in the Parks Department for kids that are going to be here during spring break. And so we won't be having another meeting prior to, we'll be at the beginning of that starting. So a great effort in our city just to provide for our residents. And it made me happy just to see so many people out and using
Thank you.
everything, yeah.
And when is our next meeting, Mayor?
7th of April.
April 7th.
That's a Monday night.
Yeah. Back to Mondays.
Back to Mondays, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, I appreciate your patience there. It's we missed it when we adopted the annual calendar.
How many people showed up last night?
Someone want to move to adjourn?
So move.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, we're adjourned. Thank you. Have a safe trip home. Thank you.
I didn't get it, no.
You can stay here. You don't have to vote.
Okay, Scott, is High Point going to
I
be
want to do that sometime.
Did I know what? They seem to be the trendy upset picnic meeting,
I know, I don't like that.
I think they're good.
Yeah.
But meetings are good
We should
too.
be on for that.
I suppose it depends which is why I asked the question.
Hey,
Mayor, so
no.
council meeting, but not.
I know, I emailed something like, are we actually needed?